Hi people, how are you? Hope so you are doing well. And in this video we are going to cover our practice problem of our reading number 51, basics of the portfolio planning and construction. As a disclaimer of this video, all these questions are taken from the CFA Institute core readings, and you can download it from the candidate resources. Okay, let's get started. Our first question is, which of the following is least important? This is the keyword here, least important. We have to focus on it, like we have to find the least important as a reason for a written investment policy statement. Like this question is asking us about the point which is not important for the IPS. I hope so you know the IPS. IPS is the investment policy statement. That is the document which is prepared by the portfolio manager, like as per the investor's expectation, what investor want, or where the investor want to invest the money. So that is the statement which is prepared according to the requirement of the each investor. So our first option is the IPS may be required by the regulation. There may be the cases where the IPS is required by the regulation, because in some country there may be the law that IPS is required because it provide the protection to the client basically. And the second option, so this is not our correct answer. Second option, having a IPS is the part of the best practice. Yeah, this will be the best practice if you have the IPS. The portfolio manager is pretty much clear what he want to achieve, so this will be the best practice. And the third option that we have, the having the IPS ensure. Okay, here is the trick. Like if you have the IPS, it doesn't ensure that how much return you will be able to achieve, but it is the good practice that you have the IPS. So this is not correct. So ensure, IPS ensure, IPS doesn't ensure, so this will be the our answer of this question, that is asking about the least important. So this is the least important because this is not providing us the correct detail about the IPS. So this will be the least important. Okay, move on to second question. Our second question is, which of the following is best described as the underlying rationale for the written investment policy statement? Basically this is asking about the rationale for IPS. What is the rationale for the written investment policy statement? So the written investment policy statement communicate a plan for trying to achieve the investment success. Yes, the written investment policy statement give a blueprint to the portfolio manager what he want to achieve as per the investor expectation. So this provide us the blueprint. So this may be the right answer, but let's check other option. And the second option is that a written IPS provide investment manager with the ready defense against the lawsuit. This does not provide the investor as the ready defense against the lawsuit, because this is prepared for the purpose of having some goal or having something what you want to achieve. There is the no aim to having the defense against the lawsuit. And the third option is so this will be not our answer. And the third option is a written IPS allow investor manager to instruct client about the proper use of the purpose of the investment. So this is not also our correct answer. So our correct answer in this case is the option A, that is good for communicating what the investor want to achieve. Okay, so our next question is: a written investment policy statement is most likely succeed. In what cases the IPS will succeed? So we have the case 1, option A. It is created by the software program, assure the consistency and the quality. So this is not case where our investment policy statement will succeed, because there is the no probability that if it created by the software that it will succeed. And the second option is the collaborative efforts of the client and the portfolio management. Yes, this is the case where there are the more chances that your investment policy statement will succeed, since it is created by the efforts of the portfolio manager and investor. So there is the more chance that they will end up with creating a good in IPS, and that will help the portfolio manager to achieve the returns what investor want to achieve. And the third option is given to us, that is it reflect the investment philosophy of the portfolio manager. So it doesn't not reflect as such the investment philosophy. So the correct answer in this case is the option B. Okay, let's move on to our next question. This is the section of the investment policy statement. This is asking about the section in the IPS that provides about how policy may execute, including the restriction and the exclusions. It is described as the investment objective, that talks about what are the objective of the investor. So this will be not our answer, since this is asking about us the section which executed, which talks about like restriction or the exclusions. So option 1 is investment objective, that will be not correct answer. Second one is the investment guidelines, that will be our answer, because this section talks about what is guidelines for the portfolio manager in the different circumstances. And the third option is the statement of the duties and the responsibilities, that is not also talks about the restriction and the exclusions. This section is talked about our what is the responsibilities or duties of the portfolio manager. So the correct answer of this question is the option B. Okay, let's move to our next question, that is the which of the following is least likely to be placed in the appendix of the investment policy statement. Rebalancing. Okay, which of the following is not most likely but least likely? That is the least likely. So the rebalancing will be in the appendix of the IPS. Strategic assets allocation will also be part of the appendix of the IPS, but the statement of the duties and the responsibilities will be part of our IPS, not the part of our IPS, but not in placed in the appendix. Okay, let's move to our next question, that is the question number 6. Which of the following typical topics in the investment policy statement is most closely linked to the client distinctive needs? So don't go into my pronunciation, but just try to understand. Which of the following typical topics in the investment policy statement is most closely linked to the client specific need? Like this is more good. And this is the procedures, that the procedures for preparing the IPS or investing are always be same, that I hope so. And after that there is another thing like this is, but this will be not our answer, because this is not the specific. And the second option that we have is the investment guidelines. Yeah, these are given by the investor to the portfolio manager, that are the specific. Different investor will give the different guidelines for the portfolio manager for managing his money. Okay, So this will be the correct answer, but let's read it. Statement of the duties and the responsibilities. Basically, the responsibilities of the portfolio manager is more or less same in all the cases. That's what we assume basically. And let's move to our next question, that is the question number 7. And this is like an investment policy statement that include a written objective of outperform the FTSE by 100 by 120 basis point, and I hope so you know the basis point. And basis point best described as having an relative return objective. Second one is the absolute absolute return objective, arbitrage based. Okay, let's first understand what is the relative risk objective and absolute risk objective. This is out of our way. Absolute risk objective, when you are you are stating like I want 7% return, that is your absolute risk absolute return objective, like you want the 7% return in a particular year. But if you say like I want 1.2% higher return than whatever stock market what Nifty provides us, then like Nifty provides you 5%, then you will demand 6.2%. that will be the relative return objective. Okay, so our correct answer of this question is the option A, because the question given to us is talking about the relative risk objective, the relative return objective, sorry. Let's move to our next question, that is let's move to it, and let's start. Risk assessment questionnaire for the investment management client are most useful in measuring the value at risk. The risk assessment questionnaire doesn't provide a portfolio manager to what is the value at the risk and ability to take risk. Ability to take risk, you will get to know about data, client data, like how much his salary or how much wealth he have. So that will provide you the ability to take risk. But yeah, about this you will get to know from the questionnaire, because willingness, how much an individual want to take risk, you will get to know about it with the help of risk assessment questionnaire. Okay, let's start our new question, that is the question number 9. This is which of the following is best best described as the relative risk objective. This is in this question we have in this question we have talked about the relative return objective or the absolute return objective. This is asking us about the relative risk objective. Okay, which of the following statement is best characterized as the relative return objective? In this, the first one is the value at the risk for the fund will not exceed 3 million. Like this is the absolute amount of the risk that is given. So this is the absolute risk objective. And the second option that is given to us is the fund will not outperform the DAX by more than 180 point. This is the relative risk objective. Since this is relative to DAX, here the risk is relative to the DAX, so this will be our correct answer of this question. Okay, let's move to the next question, that is in preparing an investment policy statement, which of the following is most difficult to quantify? Time horizon, ability to accept risk, willingness to accept risk. Time horizon, it is pretty much clear how much time an investor want to invest when you talk to investor, or when investor give you data. ability to take risk, it's also easy, because if you look at investors past investors wealth or past data, like how much risk he has taken, like how much wealth he have, how much salary he's drawing. So this is very easy to determine the ability to take risk, but it is very difficult to identify the willingness to accept the risk, because different investor may have the different choices to, risk tolerance may be different of the different investor. So this is most difficult to quantify. Okay, let's move to our next question. This is giving us one situation about an investor or a portfolio manager. You have to give the answer from the point of view of a portfolio manager. Let's start it. This is after interviewing a client in order to prepare the IPS. Okay, you are like you are interviewing a client for, you want to prepare the IPS. Based on that interview, you have to establish the following. Okay, data of the client is given here. Okay, and that is the client earnings are vary dramatically between 30,000 to 70,000. That's vary between 30,000 to, depending on the weather of the particular palace, that is the Britain. In 3 of the previous 5 years, the after tax income of the client is been less than 20,000. Okay, the client mother is dependent on son and on her son and for approximately 9,000 per year for support. Okay, and after that the client on substance need is approximately 12,000. Okay, and after that the client has more than 10-year experience trading in the, okay, he has the experience in the field of the finance, like trading in the option or the futures, whatever the case. The client response to the standard risk assessment question is suggested the above the average risk tolerance. Okay, here the willingness to take risk is high, because client want to take risk, but what is their ability to take risk? I don't think so, because client doesn't have the proper income sources, and we can't say these income sources as a continuous income sources, because that vary dramatically between this amount and this amount. So our option is a low ability to take risk but high willingness to take risk. Okay, this is the correct answer. Why this is correct answer? Because here the investor having the low ability to take risk, but he want to take risk, that willingness is high. Okay, let's move to our next question, because there is nothing that is we have to deal with in this part. So I would like to move to question number 20 12. After interviewing, this is the same, you have given a case of one client, like you are interviewing a client for preparing an investment policy statement, and that data of the client is given that earnings have exceeded 1,20,000 after tax each year. Okay, last 5 year he has no dependent. Okay, after that per year, so his need for the expenditure is quite low as compared to this, and the client stated that she feels uncomfortable with the lack of the understanding of the security market. Okay, here the client doesn't have the knowledge about the security market. What does it seems like he's not from the CFA background. It's okay, jokes apart. And all the client current earning savings, whatever that is, current agency. Okay, let's read it. All the client current savings are invested in the short term securities. That is like this the investment basically here is in the risk free security. The client responds to the standard risk assessment question is suggested she has the low risk tolerance, he has the low risk tolerance, Okay, here the ability is high but willingness is low to take the risk. Okay, so the option B is the correct here. I will not discuss other option, so you have to focus only here in exam. Okay, let's move to our next question, that is question number 13. Okay, let's start it. And a client who is 34-year-old widow. Okay, client that is the 34-year-old and that is widow, and two healthy young children. Okay, there is the children that are dependent, I think, on that widow. That is your client. Okay, and after that client has asked you to help her to form an investment policy statement. Okay, you have to prepare her for investment policy statement. She has been employed as an administrative assistant in the Bureau of the National Government for the previous 12 years. Okay, she is in employment, and she has two primary goals for her retirement, and the providing the college and the tuition fees. Okay, she has the goals for the retirement and providing the tuition fee of her children. Here we have to determine the time horizon. Our option is option A, that is long. Okay, that is the long term time horizon that she have. Then there is the short term and the medium term. The correct answer of this question will be option A, because she is having the long term time horizon, because she need for the retirement. Now she is 34-year-old. I hope so she will retire in 60-65. That is the long time horizon, and she will need the college fees for the 5 or 7, like they will grow up and they will go to college after 10 to 15 years. So there will be the long time horizon. She have. Okay, let's move to our next question, that is the timing of the payout of the property and the casualty insurers is unpredictable in comparison with the timing of the payout of the life insurance companies. Okay, therefore in general property and the casualty insurers have the basically property and the casualty insurers have the greater liquidity needs, because when the money is required anytime, like there may be the there may be need for the money anytime, so you will require the greater liquidity in that case. And then the life insurance companies, because life insurance companies having the less liquidity requirement. Okay, let's move to our next question, that is a client who is a director in the publicly listed operation. Okay, required by the law to refrain from trading that this is basically talking about a person who is the director in a company, and he is required by the law that he will not do the trading of the stock of that company which he is associated until the financial disclosure, like the result of that companies are out. And in preparing a written investment policy statement for that client, this restriction on the trading is the irrelevant to the IPS. Second option should be included in the IPS, make it illegal for the. I think this should be included in the IPS, because that is providing the limitation on your work. Like you can't trade on based on uh, the prescribed time for the director in his portfolios, just because of the internal trading to control all these things, insider information. Okay, so the correct answer of our question is B, and you may deal with these things like insider trading. You will get to know about more when we proceed in this course. Okay, let's move to our next question, that is the question number 16. Consider the pairwise correlation of the monthly return of the following assets. Like there are the correlation is given between the Brazilian equities, East Asian equities, European and the US equities. Okay, based on the information in the above table, which equities class is most sharply distinguished from the US equities? Okay, they are asking us about the which assets class have the lowest correlation, that is more distinguished will be there when there is the low correlation. Okay, US equities we have to calculate we have to find out the correlation which is lower between the US equities and Brazilian equities, US equities and the Brazilian equities, that is the 0.776, and European equities, that is 0.90, and East Asian equities, that is 0.88. Okay, the lowest is 0.76. So the correct answer of our question is option A. Let's move to our next question, that is question number 17. Okay, return on the assets classes are best described as being a function of failure to arbitrage. Okay, this is not our answer. Exposure to the IDO, this is, I can't pronounce it. Okay, you will read it. So also this is not our answer. Exposure to the set of the systematic risk. Okay, this is our answer, because in the normal cases the market give us the return for the systematic risk only, because unsystematic risk we can diversify it. So the systematic risk, for that we get the return. So this is our answer. Okay, let's move to our next question, that is the question number 18. In defining the assets class as a part of the strategic assets allocation decision, pairwise correlation between the assets class should generally be. Okay, there is the two cases, there may be the two cases, like okay, I have to like this is the assets class, there may be the different securities in this, and these are the two different. This is the other assets class 1, this is the assets class 2. There may be the different securities. Then this question is asked about the correlation between the pairwise correlation within the assets class. Okay, the securities within this assets class having the higher correlation, because these are within one assets class. If we talk about the correlation between these two assets class, that will be the lower, because these are two different assets class. Like if I talk about the industry, like if you are talking about the stocks of the one specific industry like FMCG, if all the companies which fell under this industry FMCG, there will be the high correlation in the stock price of that particular company in the particular industry, that are like part of that assets class. And if we talk about the returns of other like oil and gas industry, then there will be the low correlation between the FMCG and the oil and gas industry company's stock price. Okay, this is simple, like correct answer of this question will be C. And now let's move to our next question. Okay, that is the tactical assets allocation is best described as, the tactical assets allocation is like deliberately deviating from the our strategic assets allocation, that is that may be for the reasons like you want to achieve the higher return, or you want to capture the particular situation in the market. You wanna capture that you will get something, you found something undervalued and in market, and you wanna earn the arbitrage profit from out of it. So that is your tactical assets allocation. You deliberately deviate from the strategic assets allocation. So the option 1 in this case, the attempt to exploit the arbitrage possibilities among the assets class, this is not correct answer. We are not trying to exploit the arbitrage opportunities between the assets class. And the option B is the decision to deliberately deviate from the policy. Okay, this is the main thing, like you are deliberately deviating from the policy of the portfolio. Okay. And the third option is selecting the assets class with desired exposure to the source of systematic risk in the. So this is not also our answer. So the correct answer of this option is this question is option B. Okay. Now we have done with it, and I hope so you like this. And if you like it, don't forget to share your feedback in comment section. And okay, thank you very much.